Hello, everyone, and namaste. It's such a blessing to have you here, and I'm so excited for our material today on how to improve our karma with Bharani Nakshatra. This is the second installment in the Nakshatra series. First, we did how to improve our karma with Ashwini Nakshatra, and now we are moving on to how to improve our karma with Bharani Nakshatra. And even though both of these nakshatras are within the constellation of Aries, they couldn't be more different. They are so different in some of their energies, in some of their lessons, in some of their associations. And when you get into the nakshatras, it shows very specific aspects of the karma. So you're looking very specifically at certain lessons, certain evolutions that we go through as human beings on this planet. And as we walk through each nakshatra, we walk through certain lessons. We walk through certain karmas. We walk through a spiritual evolution together. So this is very exciting work that we're all doing, and I'm grateful to be here. I'd like to give a special thanks to this whole Saptarishis astrology team, especially Sunil John, for his vision and everything that he does for this community. Welcome, everyone. How to improve our karma with Bharani Nakshatra. Bharani is the bearing star, or the star of restraint. My name is Kṣaṇāti, and for those of you who don't know me, I am from the United States, and I have completely devoted my life to Jyotish. It is my dharma and my greatest passion, and if you ever need any of my services, please feel free to contact me. My website, jyotishastrology.org. Email ksanatijyotish@gmail.com. I have a Facebook page, which you can find yourself with updates on what is currently going on astrologically. And I've also got my own YouTube channel now. It took a while for me to get my YouTube channel off the ground, but I'm constantly promoting new work, new videos, new ventures. I got a Rahu K2 summit coming up in middle of December with a very interesting panel of international astrologers. So please check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Kṣaṇāti and subscribe. It will be deeply appreciated. I've separated our presentation today. First, we're going to discuss the history of Bharani Nakshatra, the origin story of some of the aspects of Bharani. And then we're going to talk about Bharani karma, how Bharani karmically influences and affects us. Then we're going to talk about Bharani's current transit. For example, today the moon Chandra is in Bharani. And because Chandra is in Bharani today, it's a very auspicious time to do work as it relates to Bharani, and that's why I picked today. But there's also some upcoming transits with Bharani when the sun will be in Bharani, when Mercury, Mars, Venus, those will all be traveling through Bharani. And so we're going to want to talk about that as well. Then we're going to talk about Bharani planetary relationship. For those of you that have Bharani Nakshatra, maybe your sun is in Bharani, maybe your moon is in Bharani, maybe your Rahu is in Bharani, or Mars, Venus, Mercury. And I've discussed in detail how Bharani Nakshatra relates to the different graha, relates to the different planets. And so we'll go into detail to discuss the karma as it relates to the planetary placement in Bharani. And then we'll discuss in detail how to improve our karma with Bharani Nakshatra. We do ancient remedy, Ayurvedic remedy, lifestyle remedy to improve our spiritual relationship with the energies. And then we have an example of Bharani karma that we have discussed. Some different members of the community have voted, and they've decided Carl Jung, the great psychiatrist and theorist, we are going to look at his chart as it relates to Bharani. And then we can look at some live questions together. So I'm very excited to be here with all of you, and I'm greatly looking forward to diving into this work. Bharani Nakshatra is ruled by Shukra. Now, it's not just ruled by Shukra, but Shukra is the graha which is primarily associated with it. So when we honor Bharani Nakshatra, today we're going to start with Venus mantra, Shukra mantra. And for all of you who are joining us from all over the world, I encourage you to practice this mantra. I have written the text in English, Devanagari, and translation, so read it in whichever form that you prefer. But I highly encourage you to join us for chanting. May Venus come and bless our webinar with its presence. Imakunda Manalabam Daichanam Paramam Guru Sarva Shastra Pravaktaram Bhargabam Pranamamyam Imakunda Manalabam Daichanam Paramam Guru Sarva Shastra Pravaktaram Bhargavam Pranamamyam Himakundam Nalavam Daichanam Paramam Guru Sarva Shastra Pravaktaram Bhargavam Pranamamyam Himakundam Nalavam Daichanam Paramam Guru Sarva Shastra Pravaktaram Bhargavam Pranamamyam. Om Dram Dream Dram Saha Shukraya Namah. 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 Om Hrim Shrim Shukraya Namah. Hari Om. Om Namah Shivaya. I hope everyone here is feeling the spirit of Venus. That is wonderful to have shared this with you. Venus mantra always makes me feel so enlivened, so excited. So this is very wonderful to have this energy going into this webinar. Bharani history. Whenever we try to understand the karma of a nakshatra, it's important to understand it from a historical perspective. So first we're going to understand a lot of the history as it relates to Bharani Nakshatra before we can even truly understand this nakshatra at all. Sri Yama is the presiding lord of Bharani Nakshatra, and so therefore the history of Lord Yama, the mythology of Lord Yama, the origin story of Lord Yama. This is essential to understand the karmic nature of Bharani Nakshatra. You cannot understand the karma of Bharani Nakshatra without understanding the history of Lord Yama. And again, Sri Yama is the child of Surya, the sun. and Sanjana. So one thing that Yama and Ashwini have in common, right? They're both child of the sun. That is why the sun is exalted in both of these nakshatra. That's very fascinating. So Sri Yama is the child of Surya and Sanjana, the sun's first wife. In the Markandeya Purana, which is the text which is associated with some of the origin of Lord Yama, it shares of Sanjanaji, the beloved wife of Surya, daughter of Vishvakarma. She was pregnant, okay? So Sanjanaji was pregnant, and Surya came to visit his beloved wife. Surya glanced upon the pregnant Sanjana. All the sun did was look upon his beautiful wife. But the sun is so brilliant, the sun is so powerful, the sun is so intense that she had to close her eyes. So this was the beginning of the story. When his wife closed her eyes, Surya was very hurt. Surya took this as a direct insult and offense. So it was not Sanjanaji's fault for her to close her eyes, but she did nonetheless because of the brilliance of the sun. In a burst of outrage, Sri Surya cursed Sanjanaji that she would give birth to a son who was the annihilator of creation and also a capricious daughter, okay? This was the first curse. So the curse that Surya gave to Sanjana, that she would have a son who was the destroyer of worlds and a finicky, picky daughter. Now, this curse yielded the twins, Yama and Yami, okay? So this caused the birth of those children to be Yama and Yami. Sanjana left the celestial realm or the heavenly realm with Surya because she could not bear the light of the sun. But she was so deeply afraid of the sun and his power because she was just recently cursed that she created a shadow deity named Chaya, which means shadow, sent to take the role of wife to Surya. So again, a shadow form of Sanjana called Chaya was created to go attend to Surya. So it was an impersonation. And Chaya had many children with Surya. And she was always preferential. She always gave the best treatment to her own children that she had with Surya. And Sanjana's children, right, were Yama and Yami. So Chaya was very hard on Yama. Chaya was very hard on Yami. And she always gave special treatment to the children what she had with Surya. Yama once became very angry because his stepmother had always been favoritism towards her other children. And he was so angry that he thought to kick his stepmother. He raised his foot in the air, but at the moment that Yama raised his foot, he was consumed with mercy and compassion. At this moment that Yama was consumed with mercy and compassion, he dropped his foot, realizing that he could not kick his stepmother Chaya. Regardless, Chaya saw Yama's foot in the air, and she became enraged and full of fury and anger, and she cursed Yama. So Chaya then, even though Yama did not kick his stepmother, Chaya, because of his thought, of his raising of his foot, Chaya says, I will curse your foot, Yama. I will curse your foot, that it shall be consumed with worms and death, and shall fall off. So Chaya cursed her own stepson, that his foot be consumed with death and worms, and that it will eventually fall off. But this curse was very powerful because it is related to death, which means it related to moksha. So when Yama received this curse, and Yama was already very merciful and compassionate being, and very unbiased. He never practiced favoritism or preferential treatment. That is why he was so enraged at his stepmother's practice of it. But this curse actually enlightened Yama. This curse woke Yama up. His Ajna chakra, his third eye became exploded, and he had now had the divine wisdom of life, death, and the law of karma. So this curse, which was very difficult, also had a lot of spiritual qualities to it because of its connection towards death and reincarnation and the afterworld. So it acted like a catalyst for Yama to transform into a much more virtuous and spiritual life. Surya knew that a woman would never curse her own child. So Surya immediately realized that Chaya was not his true wife, Sanjana, because no true mother would ever curse her child. So Surya came to earth to find Sanjana, but Sanjana could not go back with the sun because of his form was too bright. His form was too brilliant. It was too, and she had spent time on earth. So now her form had become more human. So he had to do something to change his form in order to be able to have this time with his wife Sanjana. So Surya asked Sanjanaji father, Vishvakarma, if he could use his divine power. Vishvakarma is very powerful deva. If Surya could beg Vishvakarma to please use his power to turn down the light, to dim the light of his form, only by 1/8 of a percentage. So only by very small percentage, but that was all Sanjanaji needed and able to experience her husband in a healthy way. So Vishvakarma granted this power to Surya, and Surya's power was diminished. Surya's brilliance was diminished. So this allowed Sanjanaji to return to the celestial realm with Surya. And so it is said from this point of the story in the Purana that Surya, Chaya, Sanjana, and Yama and Yami, they all lived together in peace and harmony. Now, upon returning to this celestial or heavenly realm, Surya realized that he had to rectify this curse placed upon Yama, that Yama should not be cursed. Why this curse was unfair towards Yama. However, as we mentioned, this curse made Yama very wise and enlightened. And Yama was always known for his fairness and his unbiased nature. So Surya saw this divine wisdom in Yama's journey and exclaimed that the worms and death which curse Yama's foot will now fall to earth. This due to Yama's virtuous wisdom, he would be immortally exalted, the Deva of death, the god of karma, and the judger of souls. And when the worms of Yama's feet go down from his feet down to earth, it shows that death is the karma of humanity, that we must experience death, that we must experience disease, and that we must experience reincarnation. The Matsya Purana, a separate Purana, also suggests Sri Yama has trusted servants called Yamadutas. The Yamadutas act as escorts for transitioning souls from earth to Yamaloka, the celestial realm of Sri Yama. So in the Western ideology, we have the Grim Reaper or the Angel of Death. But from a Vedic perspective, the Yamadutas are the ones that come escort us from earth to Yama. So it's Yamaloka, the celestial realm of Sri Yama. Now, this is very mystical. Occasionally, when the soul departing earth is of the highest dignity, respect, virtue, and righteousness, Lord Yama comes himself to escort you on his divine buffalo. Okay, so again, most of the time, these blood red angels called the Yamadutas come and they escort you. But if you have the blessing of being a truly righteous, a truly divine soul, then actually Yama will come escort you himself. So if you see a buffalo and Yama at the time that it's your time to transition, this is a sign of great enlightenment and great karmic. Basically, Yama is coming to congratulate you on the life of good karma that you have lived. Now, in an alternative explanation of Sri Yama's story, in this same Matsya Purana, Yama experienced moksha, non-attachment, and did penance, tapas for Lord Shiva for 20,000 years, and was granted this exaltation of the Deva of death, the Deva of karma by Lord Shiva to judge dharma and adharma for all humanity. It's not that one of these stories is true and another story is not true. One of the ways that I think about this is in the time when Yama was cursed, he did penance for Lord Shiva during that time. So when Sri Yama was cursed that his foot be consumed with death, he had become deeply connected to moksha. And that is when he did his penance for Lord Shiva. So in one story, the sun gives him the title of the Deva of death. And in another story of the Purana, Shiva gives him the title of the Deva of death. Again, but there's a deep interconnectedness here. So this story of Yama, it really touched my heart. It really touched my soul. And I began to have these beautiful visions of the divine water buffalo coming and escorting me towards this place of pure bliss and karmic reincarnation to a higher place, to a more blissful place. So this vision of the reincarnation process and the afterlife, it really spoke to me. Now, understanding this energy and origin of Lord Yama is going to deeply integrate us into understanding the Bharani karma. Now, Bharani Nakshatra is co-ruled by Sri Shukrayaji, Venus, and Lord Yama. So you can say that they're co-owners or co-rulers of Bharani Nakshatra. The origin and history of Lord Yama, as discussed, is very integrated into the karma. The curse of Sri Shanjana, the curse of Sri Yama. Both of these curses are deeply illustrative of how Bharani karma affects and influences us and the lessons it contains. Sri Sanjanaji was cursed due to her closing of her eyes in the brilliance of her husband Surya's light. It was not her intention. In other words, Sanjanaji did not want to disappoint her husband. She did not want to close her eyes to make her husband angry, but she had no choice because of the power of Surya. Surya was offended, and the karmic consequence was severe. So even though it was not Sanjanaji's intention to hurt her husband, she did, and the karmic consequence was severe. Also, Lord Yama raised his foot to kick his biased stepmother, Chaya, but he was overwhelmed with compassion and decided not to kick her. But regardless of Yama making the right decision to not kick his stepmother, he still had curse. He still had karmic consequence. Chaya cursed his foot with worms and death. So even though Sanjana did not intend to close her eyes, she was still cursed with difficult karma. And even though Yama did not kick his stepmother, he was still cursed with difficult karma. The divine tale of Sri Shanjana and Sri Yama reflects that the laws of karma, karmic consequence, and also karmic reward are deeply interwoven influences of Bharani Nakshatra. Mars has partial influential energy to this nakshatra, which shows us that Bharani Nakshatra activates karmic evaluation of our actions. Within the energy of Bharani Nakshatra, all natives are rewarded for their good karma and deal with certain and specific challenges and consequences for immoral, unethical, and biased actions. So it's a very karmic nakshatra in terms of, are you going to be rewarded for your good karma, or are you going to be punished for your bad karma? Even though Yama is fair, these are the energies of Yama. Venus also has co-rulership of Bharani Nakshatra, which suggests with Bharani, it is not only our actions, right? Not only the things that we do, what we are karmically rewarded and challenged for, but also our thoughts and desires. all of our thoughts have karmic consequence. All of our desires have karmic consequence. It is not only our actions which have karmic consequence, but everything that our consciousness creates. Sanjana was cursed despite having no intention to displease Surya, and Yama was cursed despite not kicking Chaya, even though she was very difficult towards him. There is great karmic retribution associated with Bharani Nakshatra due to Shukra, Venus influence, and the yoni being a key symbol of Bharani. The yoni is the female reproductive organ, okay? Female reproductive organ. And this is actually a key symbol of Bharani Nakshatra. Shows that success or failure in the romantic relationship can be a key consequence for immoral or unethical karmic actions. So usually the people with good karma in Bharani Nakshatra, they are very happy in marriage. They are very happy in relationship. But people with very difficult karma in Bharani Nakshatra are very unhappy in marriage. Maybe they never get married or they get divorced quickly. It can be very difficult for marriage, depending on what relationship the individual has with this nakshatra. However, if an individual is righteous, unbiased, honorable, and devoid of a moral thought or action, like Lord Yama, they will receive special treatment from Yama, Venus, and Bharani Nakshatra. So this nakshatra, as far as a karmic evolutionary energy, it's really pushing people to be moral, to be ethical, and to be completely only good karma. No actions that create bad karma. No thoughts that create bad karma. No desires which create bad karma. For the most honorable of Bharani Nakshatra natives, Lord Yama will come escort you to Yamaloka at the time of moksha. We talked about the divine water buffalo that Yama will escort you on. But that is only for the most righteous, for the most honorable of Bharani natives. This potential, though, for extreme righteousness and morality, right, is one of the reasons the sun is exalted in this nakshatra. The sun in this nakshatra has the potential for extreme righteousness. Now, difficult planets or aspects positioned in this nakshatra can actually show the struggle with morality and ethics. It can show that someone is not on the path of righteousness, depending on the position. And it shows a deep development with the law of karma. So as far as karma being a theme in the life, no matter what planet is in this nakshatra, no matter what house this nakshatra position in, you must come to understand law of karma through this nakshatra, so that at the time when we meet Yama, our karma is good. Now, on the Shukra, Yoni influence side of Bharani Nakshatra, there is an intense karma that relates to the native's relationship with creation and sexuality. And that includes creativity too. So high dignity positions associated with this nakshatra make the native very creative, sophisticated, refined, reserved, fertile, and mature sexually. So it can provide a lot of positive energy as far as creative or sexual energy. But unfavorable positions related to Bharani Nakshatra can make the person lewd, rude, and crude. I thought that was funny how that all rhymed. But if Bharani is not in the right position, lewd, rude, crude, which means there's a vulnerability to perversions. There's a vulnerability to sex addiction. Sex without love. So regardless of the position, it supports virility, sexual stamina, enthusiasm, and the prioritization of the sexuality. Some people with difficult Bharani Nakshatra karma aren't in touch with their sexuality at all. And people can be over-sexual, or they can have the right relationship with this aspect of themselves. Now, coined the star of restraint, Bharani karma supports profound growth, happiness, reward, success, if we can restrain our darker desires. Again, it's called the star of restraint. So if you restrain, you're going to have good karma. But if you do not restrain, which can be our darker desires especially, then there could be a very difficult consequence. Bharani natives find themselves compulsively overwhelmed with their sensual or sexual desires and have difficulty with restraint. So even though the evolutionary energy is restraint, that doesn't mean it's easy to restrain. They might still have these desires, which they have, but their karma is boosted, and they're much chance for a fair judgment with Lord Yama if they can restrain and restrict these lower tendencies, these darker tendencies. But with mature restraint of these energies, the Bharani are promoted to success. It's an Artha Nakshatra, which means it promotes success, it promotes wealth, it promotes career. So if we can restrict our darker desires, then we will be successful, we will be powerful. But if we cannot restrict our darker desires, it might create a karmic consequence that you cannot be successful, that you cannot be powerful until you stop giving in to your darker desires. Now, Bharani Nakshatra possesses a spiritual power called Bharani Shakti. Bharani Shakti. And this power activates purification karma. And those natives born with strong karma in this nakshatra are encouraged to refine and purify their thoughts, actions, and intentions. Restrainment and purification are deeply interrelated. So to restrain yourself is to purify yourself. It can also be said for these natives, there are some aspects of their cravings or desires which are impure. Something they desire with Bharani may be impure. Therefore, their spiritual evolution suggests evolving past these impure desires, such as lust, to a more refined and pure approach to love, romance, and sexuality. So people with evolution in Bharani Nakshatra, they are deeply romantic. They are deeply devoted to their partners, and they have a strong, healthy sexual relationship with their husband or wife. But the lower side of this is much more not having to do with love, but our desires that are more connected towards the physical body. Now, also associated with this karma of Bharani Shakti is an evolutionary lesson related to the purification of negative karma. It has karma of purification. So what is it purifying? Away our negative karma. So this is connected to Lord Yama. He remorsed not to kick his stepmother. So Bharani natives must seek to remove the karmic weight from their lives. Just like Yama thought, I do not want to kick Chaya. That is, I have mercy, and also that will create bad karma. If I kick my mother, if I kick my stepmother, that's going to be bad karma. So those people with strong Bharani Nakshatra, they're always evaluating, is this action I'm going to take going to cause bad karma? If so, then I cannot take that action. Is this action I'm about to take going to create good karma? If so, then yes, I should take this action. The Bharani native matures and purifies themselves from a heavy evaluation of the karmic consequence of all their thoughts and actions. Now, we should all do this, regardless of our Bharani position, right? But people with strong karma in Bharani Nakshatra, it is their evolution, it is their karma, it is their road to success for them to heavy evaluate if what they're doing is having any negative karmic consequence. So that's a little bit about the Bharani karma, and wow, is that fascinating. It is just so powerful and so fascinating and so interesting to me. Now I wanted to discuss Bharani's current transit. Now, Chandra, the moon, entered Bharani Nakshatra on Thursday, October 25th at 1 a.m. So about 10 and a half hours, about 10 hours ago. So about 10 hours ago, that's when the moon first entered Bharani. And it will leave Bharani Nakshatra at 1 in the morning. In about, let's say, 14 hours. So in about 14 hours, they will go into Kritika Nakshatra, which is actually very exciting. The next Nakshatra we'll be working on. Now, the moon is a rapidly moving planet, and therefore it transits Nakshatra quickly. It takes 1 day for the moon to transit a Nakshatra. So every day the moon's in a different Nakshatra. Mars transits Bharani Nakshatra February 26 to March 17 of next year. Then the sun transits Bharani. We talked about exalted sun in Bharani, April 28 to May 11. And Mars does very well in Bharani too. Then later in May, we have Mercury, May 10 to May 17, and Venus, May 21 to June 1st. And we're going to talk about how Mars, Sun, Mercury, and Venus, they all do in Bharani Nakshatra. Sun in Bharani. By the way, Sigmund Freud, Jack Nicholson, and Saddam Hussein. 3 very different characters, right? So Sun is exalted in Bharani Nakshatra. This is an extremely favorable alignment for Bharani because it's exalted here. Particularly concerning respect, prestige, power, intensity, generosity, kindness, and authority. It supports the native to be well educated and that high wealth, reputation, and success should follow his name. It can also indicate prosperity in marriage and offspring. So of all of the sun positions, Bharani is one of the most favorable. And for Bharani, Sun is probably one of the most favorable planets, if not the most favorable above all. Sun is also considered one of the most favorable positions for Bharani, as Yama is the child of Sri Surya, just like Ashwini is the child of Surya. The father will bestow upon its child the greatest auspiciousness. Sun in Bharani can lead to incredible positions of power and recognition, regardless of the field or expertise. That means it doesn't matter what the person does, they're gonna be successful at it. They could be famous at it. Usually due to the Sun and Venus alignment, there's a powerful allure to the energy of these natives with Sun and Bharani, which make them almost magnetic in terms of charisma and sexual attraction. And so Jack Nicholson's acting is a perfect embodiment of this energy. He has this powerful energy and you just can't help but find that magnetic when you're watching his acting. Now, the shadow side of Sun in Bharani can manifest as an overwhelming, authoritative, controlling, and constricting vibration. Constricting and restraint might be similar in some ways. This is Saddam Hussein is a good example. These natives have the potential to assert their will and desires at all costs and can cause massive destruction when it comes to the fulfillment of their desires. Racism and prejudice towards people different than oneself can arise here. Unbalanced and aggressive energy towards the opposite sex can also show up. Now, the Sun has a faithful degree in Bharani Nakshatra at degree 6.4. This is a position where if the Sun is in Bharani in this position, you shouldn't be doing anything. You shouldn't be taking any trips. You shouldn't be jumping in the car and going driving because there's faithful energy, which means it's deadly. So be careful at 6.4 degrees when Sun is in Bharani Nakshatra. And if you have this Nakshatra close in your chart, you have to be careful about certain things. There's remedies you can do to remedy this. So it's not the end of the world if you have this faithful degree in your chart. But most of the time we just use it in terms of avoiding that in the transit. Moon in Bharani. So the moon can have a mixed karmic effect in Bharani Nakshatra. This is due to moon's mixed karma with Venus and Mars. Great people in this, Carl Jung, and that's who we're going to be doing our analysis of later. Karl Marx, Carlos Castaneda. Oh my God, do I love Carlos Castaneda. A Yaqui Way of Knowledge. Oh my God, that book changed my life. Tonya Harding, Elton John, Benny and the Jets, right? Okay, Edgar Casey, Meryl Streep, okay, great actress, Lindsay Lohan, Ronald Reagan. These are all people with the moon in Bharani Nakshatra. Now, the moon can have this mixed effect there, so it can be very positive, but it doesn't mean there's not challenging energy there too. On the positive manifestation, moon in Bharani supports profound intellectual capacity and brilliance. The intelligence is often fused with creativity and intensity. This alignment of energy supports Bharani moon natives to be very groundbreaking, very provocative, and they're magnetic thinkers like Jung, Marx, Casey, Castaneda. These people all had magnetic thought waves. In other words, their thoughts, other people started to believe what they believed. There was even a religion created after Marx, Marxism. So they are charismatic and attractive and can be quite compelling in their creative expression. You know, Meryl Streep and Elton John, how Meryl Streep is some people's favorite female actor, and Elton John is some people's favorite male singer. So this is the energy. You know, difficulties that can arise from moon in Bharani can include difficulties with mental health conditions such as depression and addiction. These natives might feel trapped within circumstances of their life or assume a victim mentality within the prisons of their minds. Also, these passion can be very lustful and desirous in its nature and can struggle with sex dependency, sexual perversion, and an overall pleasure-seeking personality. These natives can also be vulnerable to outbursts of anger and violence. Now, the main thing I want to say is when I talk about the positives, when I talk about the negatives, all of the positives don't apply to one person and all of the negatives don't apply to one person. So when I discuss these difficulties that show up and someone has this position, that doesn't mean that you struggle with all these difficulties. But it's good to know when you're working with a certain energy, what are the gifts of that energy? What are the challenges of that energy? When you know what the gifts of that energy are, you can focus on those gifts. When you know what the challenges of an energy are, you can avoid those challenges and you can work through those lessons and challenges. Ketu has profound karmic effect in Bharani Nakshatra. This is due to Ketu's friendship with Mars, right? Ketu is akin to Mars. However, Ketu can have a mixed effect with Shukra, although they're kind of considered friends, and can have certain challenges. Even though they might be considered a decent interaction with each other, it's a difficult conjunction when Ketu is in Bharani. Now, on the positive manifestation, Ketu in Bharani supports the native to be very beautiful and attractive. These people are so powerfully attractive, just like the sun and moon in Bharani. Natives born in this conjunction can be very successful in terms of international or foreign affairs. So there's that Ketu Rahu international foreign energy. It also supports profound creativity and a unique skill or talent. People with Ketu and Bharani, they have this skill, they have this talent, they have this gift. It's like they could bring it to a talent show. This alignment of Ketu and Bharani has also been shown to support the path of yoga and a mystical, spiritual-oriented lifestyle. Some people with Ketu and Bharani, they follow the yogic path. And so it can support reaching high positions in religion, such as priests, and connotes a profound potential as a healer as well. Ketu and Bharani Nakshatra, very good for medicine and healing. Now, challenges that result with Ketu and Bharani include deeply ingrained perversions and immoral desires. Notice I said deeply ingrained because sometimes with Ketu, that can be related to our past lifetimes. So some of the desires or perversions which we have that we've had for many lifetimes, they come through with Ketu. So these individuals are vulnerable to certain health difficulties, epilepsy, swelling of the brain, and injuries/accidents. Due to Shukra, Venus's influence on this nakshatra, natives with Ketu and Bharani are vulnerable to venereal disease, sexually transmitted diseases, and could fall temptation to infidelity, prostitution, and perversion. That doesn't mean if you have this position, you struggle with these things. We talked about you could be a yogi or priest. But on the darker side of this, you can struggle with prostitution or perversion. And isn't this interesting? Sometimes priests, because they do brahmacharya, especially in the world, in our society right now, there's abuse. Certain Catholic priests, there's abuse. Not to get too much into the politics, but it does happen. And this is the kind of energy which shows up in Bharani Nakshatra. These priests probably have Bharani, and they could fall temptation to these things. Some research suggests restraint, restraining these temptations, restraining these darker desires with Ketu and Bharani supports moksha, spiritual evolution and growth. But the only way to get that moksha is to let go of those darker desires. Rahu can have mixed karmic effect in Bharani Nakshatra. And I don't know one Nakshatra Rahu doesn't have a little bit of good and bad in. But Rahu has a mixed relationship with Venus, but Venus and Rahu are considered friends. But Rahu has a very challenging relationship with Mars. They generally don't get along that well together. They can cause an intense energy when combined. On the positive manifestation, Rahu and Bharani supports a strong ability to be successful, particularly in the material sense, artha. Often natives with this conjunction are very determined, they're very hardworking, and they're very beautiful and attractive. This alignment of Bharani Nakshatra supports fame and profound recognition and honor. So these people can get lots of accolades, lots of recognition throughout their life. These people have an ability to be very successful in creative fields and is shown to be a good alignment for artists and musicians. It also shows a lot of success working in the military. That includes police officer, army, anything like that, and also commodities, dairy, tobacco, alcohol are all helpful for this kind of position, are positive, are successful. Challenges with Rahu and Bharani may include a very hypersexual and superficial personality. This conjunction can be very difficult for a happy marriage, and challenges such as infidelity can occur. And you can see this as a theme in Bharani. These individuals can struggle with legal challenges and difficulties, Rahu and Bharani, and may not be educated in terms of college or postgraduate education. These individuals with Rahu and Bharani might also suffer with certain health challenges, such as animal attacks, has been shown with Rahu and Bharani, as well as skin disorders, kushta. And Rahu has faithful degree in the very beginning of Bharani Nakshatra at the 0.4 degree. So when Rahu first goes into Bharani, especially about 0.4 into that first degree, it's a real time to take it slow. Now Mars in Bharani. Now Mars can have a positive effect in Bharani, and sometimes Mars has just a mixed effect, but there is the potential for a positive effect here. This is due to Mars being in the natural sign of Aries. However, Mars can sometimes challenging relationship with Venus energy. On the positive manifestation, Mars in Bharani supports the native to be bold, action-oriented, goal-oriented, determined, and reproductive. This conjunction usually activates a very active, passionate, and adventurous individual. This can be a very favorable position for Mars. These people can be very generous and helpful in their nature, seeking to benefit humanity and the planet. This alignment supports intelligence, wealth, and high position. This position can be extremely hardworking. Mars in Bharani Nakshatra is so determined, so hardworking. They are well educated, and often they are recognized within society. This conjunction is very good position for professional athletes. It has been shown. It has been shown professional baseball, professional soccer, professional football. Difficulties that can arise from Mars in Bharani include aggressive, brash, and blunt personality. Too much Pitta energy, okay? The Pitta, when it's so Mars in Bharani, it can affect body, mind, and soul. This conjunction is not good for fidelity in marriage as well, and can show desire for someone other than the partner. This alignment can be arrogant, egotistical, and consumed with pride. Haughty. And this conjunction is unfavorable in terms of safety for motor vehicles. It is actually said that if you have Mars in Bharani Nakshatra, you should have someone else drive you around, like a chauffeur. So it's important that if you're careful with boats and cars and planes when you have Mars in Bharani Nakshatra, and you might have a fear of these things if that's the case. And Mars in Bharani also makes the native vulnerable to skin, kushta disorders, and venereal diseases, like sexually transmitted. And addiction can also show up with drugs, alcohol, or sex, but usually the most common addiction with Bharani is a sex addiction. And Mars has a faithful degree at 5.4 degrees of Bharani Nakshatra, Shubhakaran. And I think someone asked what ayanamsha, and we're using Lahiri ayanamsha. Jupiter can have mixed and sometimes favorable karmic defect in Bharani Nakshatra. This is due to Jupiter's mixed relationship with Shukra and Jupiter's friendship with Mars. Usually when Jupiter is in a nakshatra, Jupiter is such a beneficial planet, but it doesn't mean that challenges don't come with that. Now, on the positive manifestation, Jupiter in Bharani supports honesty and a native that is selfless or humanitarian. So these people are very honest, and they're very generous, and they're very selfless. And it's a very fortunate or lucky position. It can lead to fame and great reputation. I even read someone who gets in difficult situations, but then gets very lucky to get out of those situations. So it creates a luck on both sides of it. This alignment is favorable for good energy and stamina, and is a very good alignment for higher education. It might be one of the best alignments for higher education. These natives could be the most learned in their various fields and have good relationships with their teachers and guru. This alignment is good for careers in administration, criminology, religion, travel, law, and athletics. And athletics, again, we're showing here, Bharani, it's good to be involved with sports. This alignment can have an affinity for advancement on the tantric path. Okay, Mars, Venus, and Jupiter all dancing together kind of creates this interest in Tantra, more of these interesting mystical paths. Now, challenges that come from Jupiter and Bharani can be a lazy, wasteful, and haughty character. Jupiter can be kapha sometimes. This alignment of Jupiter and Bharani can be quarrelsome and self-righteous when it comes to one's own principles and beliefs. My way or the highway kind of thinking. It is also be a difficult alignment for fidelity, but it might show the person is vulnerable to being cheated on. Not necessarily the other way around here, but again, it could show both of the possibilities. And health difficulty of Jupiter in Bharani. Swelling of the brain or meningitis has been shown to show up by some research. They are also vulnerable to use their wisdom for selfish means, kind of like a sorcery energy, more tempted to a darker left-handed path. Now, Jupiter has a faithful degree at 5.4 of Bharani Nakshatra, 5.4. Venus in Bharani Nakshatra. This is a very powerful combination. Venus has a challenging relationship with Mars. It's hot and cold. But if Venus is very comfortable with its own aspect, the Venus-Shukra aspect of Bharani. So it can be a very favorable position for some things and a very challenging position for other things. On the positive manifestation, Venus in Bharani makes the individual extremely attractive and pleasing to the eyes. So these people are the most beautiful, the most attractive, and the most magnetic. They can be magnetic sexually or sensually and extremely beautiful in every sense of the word. So other people might desire them, or they might become some kind of icon within society. This alignment supports profound creativity and is a perfect alignment for music, art, and theater. These individuals have a knack for the way money works and can be very hard workers and go-getters when it comes to achievement and financial stability. It can show financial success. They can be icons within society and achieve great name, fame, and reputation. A lot of prosperity energy. Also, evolved mature Bharani and Venus natives have the most discretion when it comes to what they choose to indulge in. So if it's a very dignified energy here, they're very discreet and very refined when it comes to their actions. And they generally have a deep love of foreign land, foreign cultures, and also an interest in religious, mystical, spiritual traditions and practices. Now, this is a very strong Venus energy, and so it could be too much Venus and unbalanced Venus energy, and difficulties that arise from Venus in Bharani can be a hedonistic and pleasure-seeking personality. Those natives with Venus in Bharani can find themselves overwhelmed with desire in an unbalanced way, such as addiction, obsessive-compulsive disorder, depression, and anxiety. Again, this shows up that they may struggle with sexual fidelity, which is being true to their partners. They can have a love of smoking, Venus in Bharani, Mars and Venus. And when an unbalanced manifestation, they could be the chain smoker of the cigarette. Venus in Bharani Nakshatra is you can think of it as the most beautiful woman, but she chain smokes the cigarette, which is a very unattractive act. Now, these individuals can develop intense lust disorders, such as sex addiction, and can also have weird fetishes and perversions, especially in the bedroom. These natives also may struggle with materialism and superficiality and are vulnerable to place too much importance on the external, on the outside. Too much, they might give too much importance to the way somebody looks instead of who they are inside of the heart. Now, Mercury in Bharani Nakshatra is mixed. This is a challenging energy of Mercury and Mars, but Venus and Mercury does well together. So there's a mix of energies here. Positively, Mercury in Bharani is very intelligent. These people are incredibly smart and creative too. And they are really good speakers. They're very poetic in the way that they express themselves. Everything sounds so interesting to listen to when they speak. And so they can be very gifted in writing, speaking, analytics, accounting, poetry, art, acting, and music. So all of these creative and expressionary communication fields are excellent. It's good for wealth disposition, especially if it supports sales and services. Whether you're in sales or services fields can be very beneficial. And it's also shown excellent career for engineering, construction, building, but engineering especially. Problems which arise from Mercury and Bharani can include a quarrelsome personality, someone who is quick to argue and disagree. They can be overly analytical and have too much mental energy, which can lead to an inability to filter one's words properly before speaking. Some people don't filter enough, and some people filter too much. But Mercury and Bharani, they can struggle with not filter enough. Which means they think something and they say it, and it goes on to hurt someone else's feelings. So the evolution of this energy is to think heavily before one person should act. It is possible they can be sharp and disturbing with their speech and might be aggressive in their talking. And they may be pushy or arrogant about their beliefs or opinions. It can be difficult with relationship to father. It can be difficult with longevity. It can show some issues as it relates later in life to certain difficulties like dementia, certain problems uh, its very good position. And so Mercury has the faithful degree at 1.4 degrees of Bharani Nakshatra. Quickly, Marie asks, Mercury in Bharani, not good concentration and does not like studies. Oh no, they are great students. They are actually have the potential for being fantastic students because they have so much intelligence. But they can't just study something from a purely academic perspective. So even though they're very, very intelligent, which is this potential for all of this great education and being a student and being a teacher, that there has to be a way for creative energy to get fused into that because of the Venus association with Bharani Nakshatra. So yes, they are very good students, but it's best when that field which they're studying has some creative aspect to it. Now, with Saturn in Bharani Nakshatra, well, Saturn in any nakshatra is difficult, but this is a debilitation nakshatra for Saturn. So this is very difficult. Mars has a difficult relationship with Saturn, and Saturn is debilitated in the whole sign of Aries. On the positive manifestation, Saturn in Bharani can create someone who never gives up. People with Saturn in Bharani, they are determined. They never give up. These natives often find themselves with lots of delays and adversities in life, but despite these challenging circumstances, they overcome them towards great happiness and success. These natives are very well learned in religion, science, and various areas of research. Natives with Saturn in Bharani are intelligent and determined. But Saturn in Bharani is difficult for Saturn and is considered a debilitation. Those natives with Saturn in Bharani must struggle with adversities, delays, obstacles, and setbacks throughout their life. It can be a very difficult position for loneliness in terms of spousal relationship or partnership, and it can sometimes challenge the longevity of marriage. These natives can struggle with healthy interaction and may fall vulnerable to criminal activity or prostitution. This can also show codependency or an inability to develop independence away from one's partner or parents. So it can show too much of dependency on someone else in the life. Now we are going to go into detail as to how to improve our karma with Bharani Nakshatra. And actually, this is the most important part. Yes, we discussed in detail the history of Bharani, the karma of Bharani, and based on Bharani's position, how it will influence us. But what is the point of that understanding if we cannot improve it, if we cannot make it better, if we cannot advance our karmic evolution? So this is most essential part, how to improve the karma. Now, we honor Yama and Venus, so we're going to do lots of different practices to honor them both. Friday is the most beneficial day of the week to honor Bharani. Venus is strong on Friday. We honor Bharani by honoring Sri Yama through wearing the color blood red. Yama and the Yamadutas, they are blood red. We also honor Bharani by honoring Shukra, so you can wear white, gray, or violet purple colored clothing. And when it comes to Venus clothing, finest in terms of quality and 100% natural. So cashmere, silk, cotton, 100% cotton, 100% silk. No synthetic or artificial fibers. No polyester. We hold Bharani. We honor Bharani through traditional Shukra mantra. So we pronounce the mantra, which we did in the beginning of our session, in order to honor Venus. So we perform that mantra, including the full sutra, and then the tantric or seed sound 108 times. And that's Om Dhram Dhrim Dhram Saha Shukraya Namaha. That's the tantric sound. Now, we honor Bharani through prayer in front of a well-designed Shukra yantra in a southeast direction. So if you have strong Bharani karma, it's important for you to have Venus yantra in southeast direction of your house, and you pray to this. We honor Bharani by wearing the gemstone diamond or white sapphire on the ring finger. Generally, Venus the gemstone to be worn in silver setting. Right hand for male, left hand for female is the traditional way. But the more modern approach is that the right side, dominant energy, not always right, but the dominant hand, that increases the overall energy, and the non-dominant hand decreases the malefic energy. So if your Bharani is in a difficult position, wear it on the non-dominant hand. But if your Bharani is in an exalted position, I encourage you to wear it on your dominant hand. We honor Bharani through Lord Sri Yama, as we discuss this divine judger of souls. This includes all rituals and puja honoring Sri Yama. And there are lots of different prayers written that we can honor Yama through. We honor Bharani through honoring Mahashakti and all manifestations of the Divine Mother. We also honor Bharani through honoring their father, Surya Namaha. This includes full Surya mantra and tantric or seed sound 108 times. So do Venus mantra for Bharani, do Yama mantra for Bharani, do Sun mantra for Bharani. And we honor Bharani through the study of the laws of karma. This is one of the most important things that we can do to improve our karma with Bharani Nakshatra, is to understand and study the laws of karma, which also includes the laws of reincarnation and the laws of death. Therefore, various writings and wisdom related to these areas are very beneficial to improve our karma with Bharani. When I read the Tibetan Book of the Dead, it completely changed my consciousness on the afterlife and reincarnation. Similarly, those with strong Bharani karma, they are to study reincarnation. They are to study death. They are to study moksha. They are to study karma. Now, from an Ayurvedic perspective, Bharani is related to Pitta, which contains the element Agni, which is fire, and Drava, which is water. Now, Bharani can also have Vata influence. This is due to Shukraji's creative energy, and Kapha influence due to Shukraji's sensory influence. So Venus is a planet which can either go Vata or Kapha depending on its position. So even though Bharani is a strong Pitta energy, there's also a secondary Vata or Kapha which can show up. Now, Pitta contains certain qualities which we call gunas in Ayurveda. This is Ushna hot, Tikshna sharp, Lagu light, Drava liquid, Snigdha oily, and spreading. Therefore, when dealing with difficult challenges or karma or health challenges related to Bharani, we want to focus on balancing the Pitta and its gunas. So if the native has a strong wind element influence to Bharani, such as Saturn in Bharani Nakshatra, Vata should be pacified secondary. If the native has earth element influence to Bharani or Kapha influence, such as Jupiter, then Kapha should be focused secondary. From an Ayurvedic perspective, gunas opposite to Pitta will help bring balance to the Pitta dosha and Bharani karma. This is general, but it can still be helpful. This includes heavy, cold, slow, dry, stable, gross. These are all balancing to too much fire energy, too much Pitta energy. And by the way, Ayurvedic herbs, which are my favorite part of the karma to improve our Ayurvedic with Bharani. Bhāraṇī Contains, it's very good for Venus, and this is going to be an amazing herb for Bharani. Shatavari, Anantamul, and Ashoka. Again, Bhāraṇī, Shatavari, Anantamul, and Ashoka. If you have Bharani karma, these are good herbs to work with. Now, how through our lifestyle can we come to improve our karma with Bharani Nakshatra? We honor and improve our karma with Bharani through developing our knowledge, wisdom, and awareness of the laws of karma. So Bharani supports the achievement of artha as an aim, right? You can achieve prosperity, success, wealth, and career, but that is only possible if you have good karma. So the career is destroyed if you have bad karma, but the career is exalted if you truly understand how our karmic law exists and the karmic consequence of your action. It is essential to improve our karmic relationship with Bharani Nakshatra that we understand not only every action or inaction that causes karmic consequence, but also thoughts and intention which create karmic repercussion as well. Again, Sanjana was cursed when she closed her eyes. She did not mean to. Yama was cursed when he lifted his foot. He did not kick Chaya. So we must understand, as soon as we think something negative, as soon as we intend to do something negative, even if we do not follow through on that, even if we do not carry that out, just the thought itself is karma. So we must be watchful of our thoughts. That is why we do meditation. That is why we do chanting, because we are also responsible for the karmic consequence of our thought. Those natives with a mature and evolved relationship with Bharani realize the great butterfly effect through every thought, action, and intention. And within that butterfly effect, karma is created. The butterfly effect is one of the energies which relate to karma. Therefore, to truly improve our karma with Bharani Nakshatra is to understand the full karmic implication of every thought we have and every action we take. So that's the butterfly effect. That's the domino effect. That means every thought you have, it hit one domino, and then one more domino, and then one more domino, until 100 dominoes are hit. So you must be very watchful of your thoughts. You must be very watchful of your intentions. You must be very watchful of your actions in Bharani. In the epic tale of Lord Yama, there are two examples where a curse was placed despite no bad will of Sanjana or Yama. Sanjanaji closed her eyes to Surya due to his brilliance, and Surya was deeply offended and cursed her. Yama was overwhelmed with compassion and mercy when he raised his foot towards his biased stepmother Jaya, and he did not strike her, but regardless he was cursed. So these two curses are essential to improve our karma, which leads me to a quote which I think really exemplify energy of Bharani Nakshatra, and that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Not talking about a literal heaven or hell. Although when we see Yama at the time of our transition, if our karma is not good, I think we might have hellish experience. And if our karma is good, then with Yama we have heavenly experience. That is why we must understand with Bharani karma, the road to hell is paved with good intention. Sometimes, despite having the best of our intentions, we commit acts which have had a negative karmic impact on others and this planet. So even though we did not intend to have a bad impact, that we still do. Those natives with strong evolved Bharani karma understand this lesson with profound wisdom. This means to improve our karma with Bharani, the native must take responsibility for the outcome of all actions in life, regardless of the positive energy or good intention behind it. That means it doesn't matter what you wanted to do. It doesn't matter what you intended to do. It doesn't matter what you tried to do. What matters is the impact that it had on others, the impact that it's had on the planet. And you have to take accountability and responsibility for that, no matter what your positive intention was. This is the strongest lesson of Bharani. It means the Bharani native might be intending to do something positive, but ends up causing more trouble than good, and must assume responsibility and rectify the damage that they caused. So even though they did not intend to do anything wrong, because it had a negative impact on others, they have to now make it right. They have to do the right thing, even if they did not intend to do the wrong. Now, due to Shukra influence on the star of restraint, we greatly aid and improve our karma with Bharani by practicing restraint concerning our sexual or sensual desires. Okay? That means if we can arise that certain natives born in Bharani struggle with hypersexual or overly desirous energies. It's a very desiring nakshatra. Bharani desires. And so they must restrain and rectify their desires and perversions for the strongest spiritual evolution and growth. So when it comes to those desires, The Bharani native restrains those desires and is then spiritually grown. Bharani karma activates a deep evolution and refinement in terms of our experience of the body and the senses. To improve our karma with Bharani, we only engage in the pleasures and indulgences of life in a healthy, moderate, refined, ethical, and sophisticated way. We don't enjoy anything in an improper way. That means for Bharani natives, immoral and unethical pleasures and indulgences can warp their mind, can make an individual very sick when you have very immoral and unethical pleasure that you always give into. To improve the karma, the Bharani native must always practice complete restraint when it comes to the indulgences of the unrefined or immoral manner. So it's okay to desire. With Bharani Nakshatra, you're supposed to experience the beauty of life. But when it comes to immoral or unethical enjoyment, you're not allowed to enjoy any of that. You have to restrain away from that. And so these restraints can include drugs, alcohol, attraction to people other than a partner, sexual perversions, and greed. They must be restrained from. And so to improve our karma with Bharani Nakshatra, if we could just summarize it in one little statement, we increase the output of our positive, selfless, and moral actions, and we decrease the output. We remove the output of our selfish, immoral, and our perverted actions. So now I've taken a chance to ask the community before our presentation today, what celebrity figure would you like to look at during our presentation? And the community has voted Carl Gustav Jung. Carl Gustav Jung, a Switzerland psychiatrist and theorist, one of the greatest minds, and developed the archetype methodology of understanding the psychological prisons which we put ourselves through. His moon is in Bharani Nakshatra, so we're going to dive in detail as to how Bharani Nakshatra influenced Carl Jung's destiny and life here. Now, when looking at Carl Jung planetary karma with Bharani, we find the moon in the third pada of Bharani Nakshatra positioned in the fourth house, right over here at 23 degrees. The moon being posited in the third pada of this nakshatra suggests a strong development within this nakshatra. Those natives with moon in Bharani can be advanced intellectually and have profound affinity for fields related to the mind, which include psychology, psychiatry, hypnotism, regression therapy, and more. Moon in Bharani, good position for this work. This was certainly a favorable alignment for Jung, who used this powerful position of moon in Bharani to fuel his investigation into the human mind and psyche. This position aspects his 10th house of career. So as you can see, the moon has a full aspect on this Jupiter, and the Jupiter has a co-aspect on the moon. This position aspects his 10th house while Jupiter co-aspects, suggesting him not only to be a profound therapist in his own right, a good psychiatrist, but also a teacher, educator, and by a co-aspect of Jupiter, a guru in some senses of the word. For Jung ideology, when it comes to psychology, he is considered one of the greatest teachers. And when I first started reading about Jung, I started to learn so much about psychology. So it's groundbreaking, provocative, and compelling theories on the nature of the human mind were conceived by Jung. This archetype theory developed by Jung is a personal manifestation of the moksha energy that the fourth house can sometimes indicate. His work was pushing towards liberation of the mind and discusses many archetypes of mental disorder and imbalance which we as human beings fall into. The fourth house also shows the inner nature of the individual, and with the moon looking at the inner mental nature of the individual here in Carl's fourth house. The fourth house also shows that inner nature. He dove deep into the inner mental nature of each individual to develop a method of purification, the karma of Bharani, of thought consciousness. He purifies the psychological state. If we could only break free of this victim archetype, the victim mentality, Jung would suggest we could be liberated from limitation and suffering. If only we could break free of this victim which we identify with. This Bharani karma is a beautiful alignment to see the incredible brilliance and courage Jung brought to understanding the human mind, psychology, and the purpose of existence through archetype and other advanced theoretical methods. This moon in Bharani Nakshatra, it's such a powerful conjunction for working with the mind, diving deep into the mind, and also liberating the mind from its struggles. Yes, exactly. And I like what you said, Elaine, that Venus, the Lord of Bharani, is in the 6th bhava. So this is a very powerful position that he helps with healing. Exactly. Health. This conjunction or connection with the 6th house shows his healing potential too. So working with the mind, using the mind to heal the body. You know, it's so beautiful. If we heal our mind, we heal our body. If we heal our body, we heal our mind, because the body, mind, and spirit, it's also deeply connected. And I think that Jung's Bharani karma is a real embodiment of that healing potential, which we can do through healing our mind, releasing ourselves from the prison of our mental barriers. So that was really exciting. It was so fun to do this webinar with everyone. Now, for all of you who are joining us, please enter some questions into the chat. We'll do about 5 minutes now to answer any questions that you have before we conclude. Yes, why is it related to elephants? Bharani actually means elephant. Bharani is an association with elephants. There is also this association, it's the symbol. So with each nakshatra, there is a symbol which is associated with it. So this elephant symbol is traditionally what a Bharani elephant. It's a certain type of elephant. So it's kind of associated with it from a traditional animal perspective. Moreover, Venus sits together with the strong Mercury, Lord of the 6th house. Yes, exactly. It shows he was well learned. It shows he was well educated. It shows that he really had this energy to not only approach the mind from a logical perspective, but with Venus and the moon from a spiritual perspective, from a mystical perspective. There was something almost mystical about his work, even though it was very academic and intellectual as well. Bharani can be related to incest. Yeah, of course, definitely, Marie, because when you're looking at with Bharani Nakshatra, it's all sexual perversion. Bharani Nakshatra is the planet of restraint. So what's the opposite of restraint? The inability to restrain, which means the inability to control our desires. So yes, it is true with incest. Yes, it is true with priests abusing little boys. It's true with anyone who has an inability to restrain their sexual desire. An unevolved Bharani can show an inability to restrain your sexual desire. So that could be any sort of perversion, such as incest, pedophilia, or anything which is dark like this. I have Ketu and Bharani in 8th house. I studied foreign affairs and I am mystical. Yes, Ketu in the 8th house in Bharani is a very powerful energy, and Ketu is actually one of my most favorable positions for Bharani in terms of the potential for healing and a real interest in foreign lands and cultures. Any other questions, my beloved community? Well, I just want to thank everyone for being here. It was such a blessing to share this time with you. Here's a question from George. What are the possible implications of having Venus as the Lord of Bharani? which is also my 10th Lord, just being retrograde on my natal Venus, which is also retrograde. George, I know your chart pretty well. And when you're looking at that aspect on the 10th house here, Bharani already has an aspect which is associated with Arta. So when that aspect's the 10th, it's going to show a strong amount of energy towards achieving success and independence for you. But like you said, there's a retrograde condition. So there's going to be some obstacles. There's going to be some challenges on that career path, on that financial prosperity path, which might show up as that aspect in your chart. And you're in a retrograde period right now because Venus is retrograde right now, which is making this period maybe a little more difficult and possibly in that way. But yeah, great question. Great question. So I'm going to do a quick closing chant, and I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. It is such a blessing to be here with all of you and to share this journey of Jyotish together. I want to give again a special thanks to Sunil, John, and the whole team at Saptarishis Astrology. I am so grateful for the community here, and I will always be here to serve this community. Feel free to contact me. Any questions, anything that you have, never hesitate to reach out to me. Looking forward to our next webinar together. I also mentioned the Rahu Ketu Summit in mid-December, so please check that out and look forward to more of this divine work in the future. Om Namah Shivaya. Sahanau Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahe Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvashavahe Om Shanti 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 Om Sri Gurave Namaha Harihi Om. Hari Om. Om Namah Shivaya.